Okay, now I just want to kind of recap where we're at because we're going to take a test on this crap, this stuff. I shouldn't call it that in a video. This stuff next week. I have two parentheses here. Each one represents what's called a polynomial, and we have a plus operator. Okay, so I don't draw any rainbows. That's for times. So if it's right away, if it's a plus or minus operator, we do start with our blanks. I don't do any of this crap over here. So I have x to the second, x and nothing, x to the second, x and nothing. So the highest powers to the second plus blank x plus blank. Now for x to the seconds, in the first parentheses we got 6. In the other parentheses we have -4, and we are plussing those. Okay? So 6 plus -4 is 2. Okay, then I'd look for regular x. I have -4x and 7x, so I add those. -4 plus 7 is 3. Okay, and then for the constants, I have -3 and I have +6. That's a 6. -3 plus 6 is 3. Okay, and that's my answer as soon as I have my spaces filled out. Okay, now for the next part, multiplication. Now in multiplication, we're going to draw rainbows, but first we have to make sure every x has a number in the front. So that's a 1, that's a 1, and we're good. That already has a -1. So I circle the first number, okay, and I do 1 to 1, 1 to -1, and 1 to +1. Now how many rainbows did I just draw? I drew 3. So we write the 1x down 3 times, because that's what's in the circle. And we're going to multiply that by all 3 of these things. So we have 1x to the second, -1x, and +1. Now I will figure out what these equal, but there's another number that needs to be distributed, the -2. So -2 to 1, -2 to -1, and -2 to +1. So I just drew 3 rainbows, so -2, -2, -2. Okay, so I'm going to take that times these same 3 things, 1x to the second, -1x, and 1. Now I have 6 products to find. Well, that's going to happen when you have 2 things that need to be distributed 3 times. Okay, so make sure all the x, 1 and that has a 2, 1 and 1, 1 and nothing, nothing, and we already have a 2 there, nothing and 1, and then nothing at all. Okay, so 1 times 1 is 1, then on the x we take 1 plus 2, and that's 3, so that's 1x to the third. 1 times -1 is -1, then on x we go 1 plus 1, and that's 2, okay? 1 times 1 is 1, and on the x we just have it to the first. Nothing to add. -2 times 1 is -2, then on x we just have it to the second. -2 times -1 is +2, then on x we just have 1. -2 times 1 is -2. Now, we have some identical powers. We have a third power, a second power, a first power, a second power, and a first power, okay? Well, obviously some of those are identical. I mean, we have these second powers here. Those are identical. I'm going to circle those. We also have first powers that are identical. I'm actually going to put a box around those, okay, because they're different, okay? So my highest power is a 3, so blank x to the third plus blank x to the second plus blank x plus blank. Now for x to the third we have the 1, that's the only one I have. Now for x to the seconds we have a -2 and a -1 and a -2. Those need to be added. -3, so that's what I have. And I think you'd be best off you cross everything out as you put it down. So my x to the seconds can be crossed off. Then for x, we're looking for the first powers. 1 plus 2, that's 3. And then the constant, we just have negative 2. Okay, and that's the product. Okay, now for the next one. It's a multiplication, so we are going to do some work over here on multiplication. So I make sure all my x's have numbers in front. So 1, 1, we have a 6 there. Okay, so my first term is 1. So 1 to 1, 1 to positive 6, 1 to negative 5. So I need to write 1x down 3 times instead of twice. So we'd be multiplying that by 1x to the second, positive 6x, and negative 5. Okay, and we'll figure out what those equal here in a moment. Then we cross that out, and I need to distribute the positive 4 to the same 3 terms. So I just did it 3 times, and all you're doing is taking the 4 times these same 3 things, 1x to the second, 6x, negative 5. Okay, very annoying problem, I know. So x to the 1, x to the 1, x to the 1, x to the 1 and nothing, nothing, and we got x to the 2, nothing, and x to the 1, and then nothing at all. Okay, so I take 1 times 1 is 1, then on the x, you plus 1 to 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 1 times 6 is 6. Then on the x, we take 1 plus 1, and that's 2. 6x to the second. 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. Then on x, you just have the 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Then on x, you just have the 2. You don't add to anything on the 2. 4 times 6 is 24. Then on x, you just have the 1. And 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. So I have third, second, first, nothing. Okay, so I have some that are the same. Okay, I have 2 second powers, which I'm going to circle. And I have 2 first powers, which I'm going to put a box around. Now I put a square around those because these second power and first power aren't the same. Your highest power is a third, so blank x to the third plus blank x to the second plus blank x plus blank. So x third, I just have the 1 up top. Now for x second, I have 2 of those, the 2 things I circled. 6 plus 4 is 10. And those can be crossed out. And for x, I have 2 of those, negative 5 and 24. So I go negative 5 plus 24, that's 19. Okay, and then negative 20. Okay, next problem. It's another multiplication. So again, we need to draw, before we draw blanks, we need to draw rainbows. Okay, so I have 5 first, so 5 to negative 3. 5 to positive 4, and 5 to negative 1. So it'd be 5x, 5x, 5x times negative 3x to the second power, positive 4x, and negative 1. Okay, now you cross out 5x because you're done with that, but you still have another term to distribute. So let's distribute the 2 to everything. Okay. So it'd be 2, 2, 2. So same 3 things. You're timesing it by the same 3 factors. Negative 3x to the second, 4x, negative 1. Okay, so 1, that is a 2, that's a 1, that's a 1, that's a 1, that's nothing and 2, that's nothing and 1, and nothing at all there. So 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Then on x, we take the 1 plus 2. That's 3. 5 times 4 is 20. And then you take the 1 plus the 1, which is 2. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. And for x, you just have the 1. And you notice a pattern here. We go x third, x second, x 1. Okay, now it starts over. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, and on x, we just have the 2. 2 times 4 is 8. And then on x, we just have the 1, nothing to add it to. And then that's going to be negative 2. Okay, so we have some identical powers here. We have a 2 and a 2, so the 20 and the negative 6, I circle those. Then the x to the first, I'm going to put squares around those because those go together. Okay, now the highest power in the whole thing is a 3, so we go blank x to the third plus blank x to the second plus blank x plus blank. And for x to the third, you have negative 15. For x second, we add the circles 20 and negative 6. So I go 20 plus negative 6, and that's 14. And cross it out as soon as you have added them together. You don't want to see them anymore. Okay, then on the x, I would do the first powers. Negative 5 plus 8 is 3. Then we have our negative 2. Okay, and that's as long as I'm ever going to make these. Now, the next page. You have x plus 8 to the second power. Well, before when you did powers and had to simplify, when you saw power, you had the 3 boxes. But you have a plus operation here. If you have a plus or a minus operator, what you need to do is scribble out the exponent and duplicate another parentheses that has the exact same expression, because that's what a second power means. It's 2 of the same things multiplied together. Okay. So then I do the same thing. Okay. It's times. So I need to make sure my x's have 1s, and now I start my rainbows. So 1 to 1, 1 to 8. Now that one I only made 2 rainbows, so I write this 1x down twice, and I multiply it by 1x, and I multiply it by 8. That takes care of him. Now the same thing goes with the 8. So 8, 8, so times and times. Same 2 factors, 1x and 8. So the x, 1, 1, 1 and nothing, nothing and 1, and then nothing. So 1 times 1 is 1. Then 1 plus 1 is 2, 1x to the second. That's a second I just put there. You can't really see it. 1 times 8 is 8, and then x to the 1. 8 times 1 is 8, x to the 1. And 8 times 8 is 64. Now you notice how these two are the exact same. That always happens when you have to have a second power and you have to make another one like it. Okay, so these are my like terms right here. The x to the 1. Highest power is back to a 2, so blank x to the second plus blank x plus blank. So we got 1, 8 plus 8, 16, and then 64. Okay, next problem. Again, if I have a power and there's plus and minus in the parentheses, you need to remove the power and duplicate an expression just like what's in the first. It's like you're cloning the whole expression. So multiplication, circle the first, make sure your x's have 6's, both of them, and then start distributing. So you got 6x times 6x. You have 6x times the negative 1, okay? So I write that down twice because there's only 2 rainbows. Then the negative 1, there's 2. If you don't know how many times to write it down, you ask yourself, how many rainbows did I draw, okay? That's 6x and negative 1. Okay, so 1, 1, 1 and nothing, nothing and 1, and those are good. So 6 times 6 is 36. Then on x, it's 1 plus 1, and that's 2. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. Then on x, we just have the 1. Negative 1 times 6 is negative 6. Then on x, you just have the 1. You're not going to add anything because all I have is right here. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Okay, now I have a couple identical powers here. So I want to circle those, and that's the only pair of identicals I have. X second's the highest, so blank x the second plus blank x plus blank. So for x the second, we have 36. For the x to the first, we add -6 to -6, and that makes -12. It'd be like -6 times 2. And then we have our 1. All right, and here's another multiplication. So we start, if we don't have the sign, so I circle, make sure the x's are covered, then circle the first one. So 3 to 3x, 3 to 1. So I just drew 2 rainbows. So I write it down twice, and then I put what I'm multiplying by, 3x and +1. Okay, then the -1. So -1. -1 times and times, we're going to times by 3x, we're going to times by 1. So 1, 1, 1, nothing, nothing, 1, nothing. Okay, so 3 times 3 is 9. And on x, we have 1 plus 1, which is 2, 9x to the second. 3 times 1 is 3. And we have x to the 1, just to the 1. -1 times 3 is -3. We have x to the 1. Now, yeah, these are different now because we had 1 as a minus, 1 as a plus. -1 times 1 is -1. They weren't exactly identical. So these are my like terms because they both have first powers. Okay, so those will be added. Now, x second's the lead dog. So blank x second plus blank x plus blank. X second, we have 9. And for x's, we want to add the 3 and the -3. And that makes 0. Okay, if I get 0, I'm going to eliminate the term entirely from the expression. And then we have -1.